Here's the thing with the Ukraine-Russia crisis, okay? Here is the thingy-wingy. It's unfortunately, there's no winners, okay? There's going to be no winners. The only people that will lose is the Ukraine. So, and it's getting to the level now where it's just insanity. It's kind of this yellow journalism, fact stuff. Vladimir Putin and the Russians have said the reason why they've invaded the Ukraine is to absolve it of Nazism, but the president of the Ukraine is a Jewish comedian. So it makes no sense. Now, the Russians, okay, here's the truth. The white Russians, because I don't know if there's any black people in Russia, but the white Russians, which is a good drink, the white Russians, there have to be black Russians, by the way. Can we Google black Russian?
Of course.
Google black Russians. I hope that there's a lot of black people in Russia. I want there to be black Russians. I want to be black people in every country. I want to be black.
They're called Afro-Russians.
Oh, Afro-Russians. There you go. Black Russians, people of African descent that have migrated and settled to Russia. There you go. There you go. So yeah, I'd like that. I'd like to see the black neighbors in Russia. I have no reason why I want to see them. It's just interesting to me. Just like when Chinese people have Jamaican accents because they're born and raised in Jamaica. It's just mind-blowing. It's a mind-blowing thing. But here's the thing.
Well, actually, the black people did face discrimination fleeing from Ukraine too.
Really? Oh, see, that's not good. So the black. Oh yeah, because I saw a thing that said something about like black people were not being allowed to board trains out on the migration. I don't know if that's bullshit, but I saw something about that.
Did you see those videos of the people boarding the trains? That was crazy. That was really.
Well, are they getting like pushed onto the trains?
It felt like World War II. Yeah.
Like just boarding. Yeah. The problem is this though. Okay, is unfortunately Let me preface everything I'm about to say right now. Let me lean forward and look into the camera. I am a patriot. I am Chrissy a patriot. I am Chrissy the American citizen. I bleed red, white, and blue. I love this country. I actually wish I could wear a wig like a founding father. That's my new hairstyle. Is I'm done with the mullet. I'm done. I want to start growing my hair out like I'm a founding father. That's the look I want. Okay, and I want to start dressing like them. I want an excuse to wear leggings and high heel shoes just like the founding fathers used to wear. So, and I have syphilis like Ben Franklin. So, I want to preface everything I'm about to say is I love this country. But, B-U-T-T, we are probably more than 50% to blame for the crisis that's happening right now in the Ukraine and Russia. We told Russia, all Russia wanted, when we made NATO, okay? It's the same reason why the Japanese attacked us in World War II. We said, fuck you to Russia when we made NATO. We said the Cold War is, after World War II. Here's the history. You ready for Chrissy Histories? Let's do Christories. We haven't done a Christory Distefano segment in a while. We're going to get some history. So now, who's this? She's all right? Okay. Okay. I didn't know who that was. I thought that was the UPenn swimmer. Okay, yeah. We're going to pause the train video. So then we're going to get to the trains. After that little girl's cute. See, like that little girl reminds me of Delilah. Like this could be Delilah. It's terrible. But here's the thing, is in 1949, okay, after World War II, United States led the way. We made NATO, okay? North Atlantic Treaty Organization. We made all these countries came together, excluding Russia and China, and said, we are now a pact. We're a pact that's pro-democracy against communism, right? What does that start? The Cold War. Then, so there's a reason for NATO, right? It makes sense to have NATO. Fine. In 1990, what happens? The Berlin Wall falls. The Berlin Wall comes falling down. Russia is now, because I don't know if people may not know this, but the reason why there even was a Berlin Wall is because it was the spoils of war. When we won World War II, the United States and Russia were the winners of World War II, really. They divided Germany. They said, Germany, hey, you're Nazis, so guess what, baby? You can't have a country anymore, you fucking idiots, because you want to put people in ovens, and that's not good. So they said, no, you're not going to have that shit. Actually, you can't even have ovens. You can't cook. Done. So they said East Germany will belong to the Russians. That's why East Germany looked like shit and was boring and dull, because Russia doesn't have gay people. They don't allow gay people. So the West, that's why Western Germany, we have gay people, and that's why our cities look so nice and we had good food, because you need gays to, bring a little spice into it. And they wouldn't, East Germany really allowed no gay people, so their shit looked dull. But then in 1990, the Berlin Wall collapses, because what collapses also? The Soviet Union. The USSR goes bye-bye. And then it breaks up into all these different countries, with Mother Russia being the big one, right? But then all these other countries splinter. And there's all a little beef here and there. But the Ukraine was a big territory that said, we're not going to be with Russia. We want our independence, because the Ukraine has been occupied by a foreign force since the 14th century. So the Ukrainians finally said, we finally have peace. We finally have peace, and we're finally independent. So we don't want to lose this. But that pissed Russia off, because you have to understand something about Russia. The modern Russia as a nation is Kiev. It was called the Kiev Rus people. That's the people that started Russia. So they are intertwined. Ukraine is intertwined with Russian culture, so Russia does not want to let the Ukraine go, because it is an integral part of them. It's how the nation started. It'd be like if the United States all of a sudden, that's why we don't want to lose Texas, because we're like, Texas is America, but Texas, like, we don't want to be with you anymore. And they're like, well, you have to stay. It's the same problems. So what happens is this is why Russia doesn't want to lose Ukraine for that reason. But the bigger thing with Ukraine is when the Berlin Wall fell, okay? When the Berlin Wall fell, the United States, President George Bush Sr. said NATO should break. We were saying we should break up NATO, but Bush said, no. How about instead of breaking up NATO, you, the Russian people, and the Prime Minister of Russia conceded a big thing. He said, we'll give you back Germany. Germany can be in NATO, which is a big concession for the Russians to give up Germany. They basically gave the entire country of Germany. They said, Germany, you can go to NATO under one condition. You will not move. It's a famous line, said, you will not move 1 inch east of Germany, not an inch east of Germany. United States says, okay, yeah, we're not going to move an inch past Germany, right? And then what happens? Within 12 months, we start to grab countries east of Germany. Little by little, we start getting closer and closer and closer to the Russians' prized possession, the Ukraine. Every single leader in the Western world, from Noam Chomsky to generals, everybody was saying, do not go any further east. There's not even a reason for NATO anymore, because the threat of communism is over. The Cold War is over. It collapsed. The USSR collapsed. They want democracy. The people want democracy. Nobody wants communism anymore. But NATO still, because what is NATO really? Let's get into what is NATO, baby. You know what NATO is? NATO is a proxy for the United States. The United States runs NATO, okay? Yes, I know there's all these other countries, blah, blah, fucking blah. It's the United States. It's a reason for them to put ballistic missiles and their soldiers and nuclear warheads. Any NATO country, that's what happens. When you join NATO, now you can put your weapons there. That's basically what it is. And listen, I love this country, but what do we make money on? War. Why are we the United States? War. Why is every country scared of us? We have all the guns. We have all the guns. We have the biggest weapons. So you could say all you want, because, what's happening now in our country, like the woke, TikTok, America's weak, all that. It's not true. It's just all bullshit. It's actually not true. We are still by far the strongest. We have by far the strongest military in the entire world. We spend more money on our military than every single other nation in the world combined, baby. That's a fact. Combined, we spend more. So we have the most superior military in the world. So we want to keep making it bigger and keep enforcing it. And we do that through NATO. It's a little trick that we have through NATO. And everybody said, if you get close to the Ukraine, it's going to be a problem. We should not ask Ukraine to come into NATO, because that will fucking piss Russia off and make them mad scared. And that's what we did. In around 2014, when the Russians annexed Crimea, we said, Ukraine, come to NATO, come to NATO. Big problem. Vladimir Putin has been saying since 2000, if you guys get Ukraine and NATO, you're going to give me no choice but to act. No choice but to act. Now, is Vladimir Putin a thug, lunatic that shits on his own people? Abso-fucking-lutely. But so is every other politician or every other billionaire. Most of them just suck, besides Mark Cuban, who's doing a nice thing with pharmaceuticals. Shout out Mark Cuban. But he was saying, don't come any closer. Don't come any closer. Don't come any closer. And we kept coming closer, right? Think about it from the United States point of view. Imagine Mexico, right? There's always drama with Mexico. Imagine the Mexican people overthrew their government fucking tomorrow. They overthrow their government mañana. for my Mexican-speaking audience. They overthrow the government, mañana. And then the people of that new Mexican government do not like the United States. They consider us an enemy. What is Mexico going to most likely do? Go to our biggest enemy, Mother Russia, and say, hey, can you send over a few tanks and a few soldiers and just put them on the Mexican-American border just in case shit pops off? How's that going to make the United States feel? We're going to say, well, now we need to attack Mexico. We can't let them punch first. This is what's happening in the Ukraine and Russia. The NATO has now said we're going to start putting people in the Ukraine, and Russia now feels they have to act. Do they have to act? Probably not. Has there ever been a threat from Russia since the Cold War ended and since the Berlin Wall ended? Has there been a threat from Russia? Not really, but NATO thinks there is. So it's all abstract men with power trying to make the first move first, trying to throw a knockout blow. Well, now, unfortunately, it's gone to the point where the Ukrainian people are going to lose big again. They've only had their freedom for not even 30 years, and they're going to lose it again. Because if Russia wins, then they get occupied by Russia. If they repel the Russians, then United States is going to put NATO in there. So the Ukrainian people sit in this unwinnable situation, and everybody goes towards calling Vladimir Putin and the Russian people maniacs, and they are. But you have to understand that this was provoked, okay? This is all provoked. The United States and NATO, we are to blame as well, okay? The Ukrainian people are not. The Ukrainian people, to put them in the situation of even asking them to join NATO is an impossible situation. The Ukrainian people wanted to be left alone, but they can't. The Russians would try to put puppet government in, puppet presidents in. Vladimir Putin put his little puppets in. They would get ousted. There'd be coups. And then we put in people like Zelensky who want to fight Russia and are asking NATO to come in. All because it's all money for them. It's all money. It's all matters money. And then the people die. The kids die. The children die. Their lives are uprooted. Kiev was a modern city. It was a modern full city that was enjoying its independence. And now it's gone. It's going to be gone. I promise you it'll be either Russia will start to bomb the shit out of it, because the play was 5 days ago, right? You know what the play was 5 days ago? Oh, Putin said, oh, we want to preserve Kiev because I want to occupy it and bring them back into Mother Russia where they belong, to preserve the Kiev-Ruski heritage. Well, now that plans have changed because the Ukrainians have resistance. They're called, like, the military leaders are calling them like a porcupine, right? They're very, very hard to roll over. So now he's saying the strategy has changed. Now he says, I'm embarrassed. I got fucking embarrassed, Vladimir Putin. So he said, so now I'm going to show you the Russian military the same way that the United States nuked Japan for no reason other than to say, Russia, look at the weapons we have. This is what Russia is trying to do now for the United States, because they said, we got embarrassed, so now we're going to bring out the big boys. God willing, no nukes. It's possible, but hopefully not. But you're going to start to see the best of Russian artillery coming and destroying the country of Ukraine to show the United States that they are not weak, because the narrative now is Putin and the Russians are weak and their military sucks. And that's a very, very, very dangerous narrative that the news is putting forth. And it's going to get millions of people killed. And the war absolutely can make it to the United States in very, very proxy ways or for real ways. So just before you get your news from TikTok or whatever newscaster you may or may not like, just understand that this is so much more complicated than we know. And I don't even know barely anything. I don't know barely anything. But what I do know for sure is that the media is going to make this seem like what it's not. Because what it really is one man's ego and the United States ego vying for power and killing innocent people. That's the fucking truth of the situation. And I don't know where it lands. I hope, my daughter was asking me yesterday what's going on in the war. And I tried to explain to her, I said, listen, baby, yesterday was Ash Wednesday, and the ashes of the nuclear winter that's going to happen is what's in the cross on your head. I didn't know what to explain. I said, she goes, who's good and who's bad? I said, it's tough to say. It's tough to say, baby. I said, who's good, who's bad? I said, Russia has problems. The Ukraine has problems. The United States has problems. I said, all I really need you to do, baby, is eat your sandwich and eat your food and go take a shower and stop pulling out your loose tooth, okay? And I'm going to read you your book. I'm going to read you a little book The Day We Lost the Crayons or whatever book she wants to read. And I'm going to try not to have a panic attack over what's happening in the Russia and Ukraine. But the bottom line is I don't know, because there's somebody in her class who's Ukrainian. So she's like, I don't, she's telling me like, oh, that girl's parents are still in the Ukraine. And she's like, oh, and she's really scared. And she's telling us all these things. And I'm like, yeah. Well, baby, unfortunately, there might be a little war, but don't worry, Daddy can protect you, okay? Because Daddy's been taking Mommy's classes on Patreon. Go to Jazzy Methods Patreon. Daddy's been doing all her classes and working out, and I'm very strong. So people can come in here, and what happens is I will burpee them, and then I'll hit them with the spin kick that I learned on Jazzy Methods Patreon's bike. Now, I'm sorry that I just went on a little bit of a rant, but the problem is that it's just, I just want to be the source of your news. I want to be your journalistic source. Now let's talk about Kanye West killing Pete Davidson.